When you think about where our energy comes from, you probably picture these absolutely massive facilities, right? Pipelines, tankers, the whole shebang. But what you don't see is this equally massive, almost invisible engineering effort, all designed to protect it from the one thing that could take it all down: a catastrophic fire. So today, we're going to peek behind the curtain and go inside the master plan for that defense.
So the document we're diving into for this explainer comes from Saudi Aramco. And if you know anything about energy, you know they're one of the biggest players on the planet. And that really sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? Because the standards we're about to look at, they're not for your average building. They're designed for places where the stakes are just unimaginably high. I mean, we're talking about the infrastructure that literally powers our world.
Okay, so that leads us to the big question, right? How in the world do you even begin to engineer a system to fight a fire on that kind of scale? We're talking about a facility that could be the size of a small city, and it's full of incredibly flammable stuff. I mean, where do you even start? It really does seem like an impossible task. Well, like a lot of massive engineering problems, the answer starts with a rule book, a really, really detailed master plan that's designed to think of pretty much everything that could go wrong. And that rulebook is this document right here, SAES-B-017. This is the engineering standard. It lays out every single tiny requirement for these industrial-scale firewater systems. You can think of it as the ultimate blueprint. It's there to make sure every single pump, every pipe, every nozzle works together perfectly, like one giant cohesive defense system. So to really get a feel for how this blueprint comes to life, we're going to follow the journey of the water itself. We'll trace its path from where it's stored all the way to the point where it hits the fire. And it's actually a pretty cool journey that shows you the thinking behind the whole design. Okay, so here's the roadmap for that journey. We start with supply and storage. Then we get to the pumping heart of the system. After that, it's the artery network of pipes. And finally, the final delivery. Simple enough, right? Let's dive in. First things first, you need water. A lot of water. And I mean, we are not talking about a small tank here. This standard calls for massive, dedicated storage tanks that hold enough water to fight the absolute worst-case scenario fire for up to 12 hours straight. Think about that. That's just a mind-boggling amount of water. Basically a reservoir built for an all-out war against fire. All right, so you've got this giant lake's worth of water. Now, how do you get it moving with incredible force? Well, that's where the heart of the system comes in. The pumps. You're looking at a whole bunch of them here. Now, most of them are electric, ready to go at a moment's notice, but here's the genius part. The standard also requires diesel-driven pumps as a backup. Why? Simple. If a massive fire knocks out the power, the diesel engines fire up, no problem, and the water keeps flowing. It's just a fantastic, absolutely critical layer of redundancy. Okay, from the pumps, the water shoots into what you can think of as the system's arteries, the distribution piping. And this isn't just one long pipe going from point A to point B. Oh no. The standard is super specific. It has to be a looped network, with most of it buried underground to keep it safe. And this design is just brilliant, because if one part of the pipe gets damaged or blocked, the water can just take a detour and flow the other way around the loop to get exactly where it needs to go. It practically guarantees delivery. And these images, man, they really show you just how incredibly detailed this standard gets. It doesn't just say, hey, connect some pipes. No way. It specifies everything. Look at the picture on the left. It shows that you have to connect smaller pipes to the main one from the top. Why? So gunk and sediment don't settle in and clog up the sprinklers. And on the right, that's a special kind of valve that lets you know from way up on the surface whether a valve that's buried deep underground is open or closed. Literally nothing is left up to chance. All right, and that brings us to the final step, getting the water onto the fire. And the system has a whole arsenal of tools for this. You've got your basics, like hydrants and hose reels, but then you have these massive remote-controlled water cannons they call monitors. Plus, there are fully automated systems, like fixed water sprays and deluge systems, that can just completely soak a critical piece of equipment in a matter of seconds. But here's the thing, this system isn't just about brute force, it's smart. It doesn't just blast water everywhere with the same pressure. The entire design is carefully customized based on the exact level of danger in different parts of the plant. So, the standard basically splits the facility up into different risk zones, and you can see it pretty clearly in this table. A high-risk area, somewhere with super flammable stuff under high pressure, requires a water density of 0.21. Compare that to a low-risk area, which only needs 0.10. That's more than double the water. It's all about focusing the biggest punch on the biggest threats. And just to give you an idea of the kind of power we're talking about, look at this number, 378 liters per second. That's the most water the system might need to pump to a single high-risk area. To put that in perspective, that's almost 6,000 gallons a minute. That is a staggering amount of water all going to one spot.
And that same smart strategic thinking applies to how they place the equipment too. For your general run-of-the-mill equipment, making sure one of those big water cannons can hit it is good enough. But for the really important stuff, the high-value or high-risk equipment, like a giant compressor, that has to be covered by 2 monitors, usually from different angles. It creates a real defense in depth, making sure there are no blind spots. So you've designed this incredible, super smart system. It looks perfect on paper. But how do you really know it's going to work when you need it most? Because a plan is one thing, but performance under fire, literally, is something else entirely.
Well, the answer is right here in this direct quote from the standard, and it is absolutely crucial. It says that before you even think about introducing hydrocarbons, the flammable stuff, the entire firewater system has to be actually flow tested. We're talking about engineers out there opening up the valves and physically measuring the water flow to prove, not guess, but prove, that the system delivers what it's supposed to. No assumptions allowed.
So you see, this isn't just a plan on paper. It's a physical guarantee of performance. It's the proof that if the absolute worst happens, this system will do its job, exactly as it was designed. It is the ultimate reality check.
And that really brings us to the final idea here. We've just taken a quick look inside one standard for one specific industry. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Every time we flip a light switch or fill up our car, we're relying on these incredible, invisible layers of engineering that are standing guard 24/7 just to make our modern lives possible. It just makes you think, what other hidden systems are out there, quietly keeping everything running?
If you enjoyed this, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel, How to Do It. Search for us at How to Do 5 for even more interesting content.